Hey everybody, welcome to Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page. On this episode, a Michelin star-winning chef who's returned to his family's small-town hotel and restaurant where he first worked after high school, and where he's now helping turn the town into a culinary destination. Here's Perry Hoffman. Chef, how are you? Thanks for doing this.
Good, David. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being had. So, where are you?
Got a tiny little town of Boonville, California. No E in Boonville. We are in Mendocino County, and we're about two and a half hours just north of San Francisco.
Are you north of Napa or south?
North of Napa, about an hour, 45 minutes.
Okay, you're in the Anderson Valley.
Yeah, Anderson Valley. Yeah. Technically not a valley at all. It's a watershed.
There you go. Perhaps lesser known than Napa or Sonoma, but home of some really fine wine, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and some of the Alsatian varietals have just thrived here. There's always been great grapes here, and there's been great winemakers getting access to those grapes in the last 15, 20 years. I think that's really one of the major reasons to put Anderson Valley on the map.
Okay, now the town of Boonville.
Yep.
No E, you said, and I'm looking at my notes. I have an E. I'm sorry.
You want to be the only one.
Yeah, okay. So I'm reading that you and your partners are turning Boonville into a culinary hotspot a la Yountville.
Yeah, I think we're just trying to cook great food in a small town. Other people have kind of said like, oh, you're changing the town. It's like, that's actually not what we want to do. We love Boonville for the small town that it is, that we all kind of hold close to our hearts for the last multiple generations and decades. Just changing it for the better, just giving more options to a little bit of everybody.
And now you've got a fine dining restaurant, a pizzeria, maybe trattoria.
Yeah, kind of California Italian inspired, and it's just directly across the street.
Boonville's where you kind of cut your culinary teeth years ago, right?
Yeah, I think it's what made me continue the journey since I've left here. I moved here 2 days after I graduated high school. I'd already been working in a little local neighborhood restaurant down in the town of Napa.
Before we even get to that, let's go back.
Yeah, sure.
There are those who say you're turning Boonville into Yountville, which is renowned for the French Laundry and a whole bunch of others.
Sure.
Up there. You actually grew up in the French Laundry. Tell me that story.
Yeah, it's crazy to reflect on. My grandparents, Don and Sally Schmidt, were the original owners of the French Laundry. That was actually their third restaurant in Yountville. My grandfather was the mayor, and my grandmother always completely self-taught, really learned from her mother and just read a lot, and a home economics degree from UC Davis. So they always had their eye on this handsome, old, abandoned stone building that used to be a French steam laundry. They got a whisper one day that it was up for grabs, and they had to dream of turning it into a restaurant, and the rest is history.
What I read is that you worked there when you were like 5 years old.
I wish I still had the pay stub, but I think my very first pay stub in 1989, I was 5 years old, got paid a minimum wage from the French Laundry.
What were you doing? I mean, your grandmother was your boss, so what did she have you doing?
It was very much a family-run restaurant. Essentially, the servers, aka my mom and family, would come help my grandmother cook and prep. I got brought to work 2 to 3 days a week, especially during the summertime. My mom would drop me off at my grandparents' house, which is, directly across the gravel parking lot of the restaurant, and essentially see my grandmother, who's just, getting her coffee in her and a piece of toast. She'd give me the keys to the restaurant, and I would vacuum the French Laundry floor upstairs and downstairs and vacuum up Julia Child's crumbs. It's kind of funny. And there was a Perry prep list, everything from picking herbs in the garden to making crostinis and croutons and roasting bell peppers and chopping parsley. That was my area of expertise between 5 and 7 years old.
Well, this could have gone one of two ways. You could have decided, I never want to work in a kitchen for real.
Yeah.
Or you could have said, this is my destiny. Obviously, at some point you said, this is what I want to do.
I loved being there as a child. The smells, the vibe, fresh flowers, stainless steel water pitchers that were condensating, with a napkin wrapped around it. I just really soaked it all up at a young age and just loved it. I remember asking my parents, when I got older, after they sold the French Laundry, sitting at the dinner table at home, 9 or 10 years old, and my mom cooked a pasta dish. She'd be like, can you serve this in a restaurant? Like, would this be okay to serve in a restaurant? And she would just be like, oh my God, absolutely. This is better than 99% of the restaurants in this whole valley. I still remember that. Like, as yesterday, I was like, oh, I could just cook this pasta and have a restaurant. When I got older, I was always really job hungry. I was always the first person to be like, I can't wait till I don't remember the age now, but 10 years old so I can get a paper out. I can't wait till I get a learner's permit so I can get a job driving and blah, blah, blah. So I told my parents when I was 15, I remember having breakfast one morning that I really wanted to cook and that's what I wanted to do. And they, of course, tried to talk me out of it, knowing how hard it was, just a hard path, but they didn't try to veto it for long. They really, I guess, saw that passion that I had inside me. And I was always kind of a go-get-em attitude when I was young. And they helped fuel that.
You got a job in high school or something?
Yeah. So in high school, it was 15 and a half. I got a job at a little local neighborhood restaurant that was opening up.
Were you serving? Were you cooking? What were you doing?
I was in the kitchen. I'll never forget. The restaurant was called Zinn's Valley. The chef had worked for Cindy Paulson at Mustard's Grill for a long time. So he actually had some great skills in his back pocket, and he went off on his own to open up his own restaurant. And I got my little haircut at this crappy little hair studio that was right next door. And I walked out and I was looking at his menu, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It was crostinis of Laura Chanel goat cheese, when that was the big thing, the sun-dried tomatoes and Frito misto, fried calamari, sriracha aioli. And he walked out as I was looking at the menu. He looked at me and I looked at him, and I was like, kind of stuttered and went, "Menu looks good, chef." He's like, "Oh, you like food?" And I'm like, "I love food." And he's like, "You want a job?" I opened up my restaurant in 2 days for the first time ever. I was there the next day.
And from there, I guess after you graduated, that's when you went to Boonville, huh?
Yeah. As much as I was lucky to be born and raised in like an amazing family that was just so food focused and centric, it was still a lot to learn in the world of how to work in a restaurant kitchen. I learned a lot in that 2.5 years. When I graduated high school, I kind of had an opportunity my grandma was up here, as well as my uncle Johnny running the Boonville Hotel, and she had the apple farm after they sold the French Laundry, a beautiful 40-acre orchard that, with the help of some family members, they've completely just revitalized and restored. And they had multiple little cabins and cooking classes. And anyways, my grandma was cooking every day. And my parents are like, "You need to go cook with your grandmother. If you're this serious about it and she's still this great of health and doing it, you need to move up there." And it was just like, oh, that's a no-brainer.
So you went to cook at the Boonville Hotel, which you're now running.
And that was in 2000. So 25 years ago, which is nuts.
So was that basically your cooking school?
It was, I think, where I learned how to cook, just because Boonville's such a rewarding place to cook. It's also more challenging because it's easier to grow it here and pick it here than it is to try to buy it and get it here. General produce companies come through here once a week. Fish companies come through here once a week. You need to look at what's in front of you, not what's on the other side of the hill.
So how did you go from that to, looking at your bio?
Yeah, I can kind of run you through it here. So I spent about a year up here cooking with my grandmother, with Johnny, and essentially like learning how to cook. And a lot of it was from the garden. Johnny's like, "I bought chicken." Well, what am I going to put the chicken? It's like, "Don't, just go to the garden, see what's ready." So I remember going up like, "Oh, Swiss chard's ready. Do Swiss chard and chicken. Great. Let's throw some capers on there." One thing leads to the next. You do anything for 25 years straight, it starts to make more sense than it did 25 years ago. So I spent a year up here. After that, I joined the Fairmont group. I went and worked for the Fairmont Sonoma Michelin in Sonoma. My parents were always such great sounding boards. The very first chef I've ever worked for is like, the next restaurant you go to, you need to make sure that you're more nervous than the one you're at currently. That you just need to keep learning, keep pushing yourself. I had a good family friend there that kind of worked in the human resources department. I kind of contacted her and said, "We'd love to hire you as a line cook." Kind of my first fine dining corporate, if you will, stainless steel everywhere kitchen. I was just not used to that. So a huge disconnect from my grandma's kitchen with a beautiful terracotta cazuela of artichokes with a gorgeous French linen napkin draped over the top and bouquets. I just went from that to salamanders and stainless steel. But I really learned how to run kitchens and, more than anything, work with people, which is half the battle in running restaurants. And I learned how to do kind of cooking at scale and butchering fish and all the things that I was really kind of expected to do and thrown in the fire. And so I worked for the Fairmont Group for about 2.5 years. Worked in Hawaii at a couple of their properties and helped them out there. And once again, just learning how to work with people and of different backgrounds and ethnicities and different cultures and different cooking techniques when it comes to food, of how to approach or even just butcher a piece of chicken. Put a chicken in front of a white guy, a Mexican guy, and a Filipino guy. I guarantee you not one of them starts that chicken the same way. They all do a great job. You learn a lot from each other.
And we'll be right back.
Staying on the ethos of let's go make yourself more nervous in the next job. I got a phone call one day, actually in the kitchen of the Fairmont Sonoma Michelin, which is a pretty hardcore tactic. And it was Robert Curry, the executive chef of Berries du Soleil. And he's like, "Hey, I heard you want more." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "When you can come cook for me and maybe be my sous chef here?" And I was like, "Tuesday."
Berries du Soleil was where?
Berries du Soleil is a really wonderful, well-respected inn in the sun is what it translates, but it's in Rutherford in Napa Valley. It's got about 40 rooms, sits on about 40 acres on the hill, overlooks the entire valley. There is not a more iconic property for relaxation in the sun. It's a Hollywood hotspot. I can't tell you how many celebs would come through there weekly.
Well, while you were on that team, it won a Michelin star, right?
We did, yeah. It was the first year the Michelin Guide launched in California. But yeah, I was a sous chef, and that was really my cooking school, because that was really the first really well-trained chef that had gone off. He worked for Michel Richard at Citronelle. This is Robert Curry. And I just soaked it all up, got hired. I was 22 years old. I was one of the youngest people in the entire kitchen, in charge of people twice my age. Looking back, like Robert Chef took a complete leap of faith on me, but I was gung-ho and ready. I also really understood the role of a sous chef. Like, I wasn't really trying to expand my own style. I was there to support his.
What is the role of a sous chef?
You run the kitchen, but you run the team more than anything.
But it's the executive chef's vision, not yours.
It's usually executive chef's vision. And usually, in a larger kitchen, there's multiple sous chefs. There's an executive sous chef, which is really, like the vice president, if you will, can run anything, every situation you could possibly think of, from this piece of meat's overcooked to there's a fire.
So you topped out there as a sous chef. You then moved on to become an executive chef.
I did. I left there, and following the rules and the original ethos, if you will, the manuscript of my first chef, he said, go to work for someplace you're more nervous, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, secondary to that, once you've learned everything you can, it's time to move on. So in about just under the 2.5 years I was with Robert at Auberge, I can't tell you, I soaked up so much, and I just started to get slightly repetitive. The same dishes came back the next summer. Had about the same 100 to 200 dishes in his back pocket, all which were like really great, amazing techniques. But it's like those techniques and those dishes have inspired thousands of dishes since. I moved to Domaine Chandon, kind of right across the railroad tracks from Yountville.
That is the American vineyard of the renowned French champagne producer?
Well, it's Moet Hennessy now.
Yeah.
But Dom Perignon, Moet, Veuve Clicquot, all of the big French champagne houses there in Epernay. They bought in the early 70s back there, and they also bought 1,000 acres in the Carneros region.
Their restaurant was what, Etoile, French for star?
Etoile. When I joined, it was the restaurant at Domaine Chandon. They wanted to realign the restaurant name with their flagship sparkling, so they changed it to Etoile.
So did you go as executive chef?
No, I joined there as a sous chef, and I didn't like anything the chef was really doing with the menu. And I saw a way to throw my skills down respectively as a sous chef, and just to be blunt, like, I'm better than this guy. At that point, I think I was 24 years old.
And you got his job.
Yeah, it was through a little coup, I think, but no knock to him. I think it was just the writing was on the wall, and he moved on, and it was obvious to everyone that I was running that restaurant day in, day out, from a menu, creative, staffing.
And what kind of menu were you doing? What were you serving?
French California. Yeah, a little bit of a modern twist, because Domaine kind of always tried to stay slightly on this modern vibe more than French country chic. And a lot of it came down to, it was just incredibly exciting to work at a restaurant within a winery and to have the wine team be just as enthusiastic about what was happening in the kitchen as it was in their own cellar, in their own lab. We were blending wines, champagnes, with tastings of dishes in front of us. We're blending the dosage levels, adding another milliliter of dosage from 1979 from the library. This is a perfect pairing for this foie gras dish with Asian pears and chicories from the garden and star anise. And then we did everything in-house. So it's like, great, let's create a special label for it. Let's package it. Let's do an anniversary dinner with, God, who knows it. I mean, we had so many parties. It was just really cool. It was really cool to be able to just have a hand in all of it. And if I wasn't a cook, I'd probably follow the roots on the other side of my family and continue on with wines. My grandfather on my dad's side was the vice president, head winemaker for Christian Brothers Winery for about 40 years.
But you are a cook, and apparently a hell of a cook, because at Domaine Chandon, you became the youngest American chef to be awarded a Michelin star. You were 25 years old.
Yeah, that was crazy. It was in our mind a little bit just because it happened at Auberge and they were there, but Michelin was also so new to all us like California kids. We knew about it, but we weren't cooking. We were cooking for us and like what we believed in, that we weren't so much cooking for what we thought Michelin wanted to eat.
So what were you cooking? What were you cooking for you?
God, we changed the menu so much. I mean, it's such extensive gardens. We really honored ingredients. We got slightly caught up, like a lot of restaurants at that time, and a little bit of the molecular gastronomy action of El Bulli and Fernan and all of that. And if you weren't putting a foam on at least one of your dishes, who are you even?
How long did you stay there?
God, I was there just under 9 years. I would have actually probably been there for the rest of my life. I was actually very far along in negotiations and contracts to actually lease the entire food and beverage restaurant operations back from Domaine until we had a hiccup of our liquor licensing. There's a law in California called tied house rules. If you're a liquor or wine producer, that you can only sell 10% of your own product through your own property. It has to essentially go out and be distributed. That law was brand new to all of us. You know, it doesn't cost that much to go get a law passed that doesn't exist. Pay the lobbyist $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. And that's what, the liquor distributors did, because they wanted to make sure that they still got a part of that business. So we were considering hiring a lobbyist to go reverse the law, but it just got messy. And then Domaine started to change. 2008 happened, financial crisis. A lot of their ultra luxury premium champagnes, Dom Perignon, Veuve, all took a nosedive. So instead of these really classy kind of top tier premium California sparkling wine, Domaine shifted to be like that $20 bottle.
So you got out of it.
So we got out of it, and they got out of it too. They decided that fine dining was no longer the brand image to be associated with Domaine Chandon. That lasted, in their timeline about 6 months until that whole team got fired and replaced, and said that was the biggest mistake that we've ever had, is to close a restaurant and let 100 people go.
They closed the restaurant. You moved on. You started a microgreen and edible flower company. How'd that go?
Well, kind of piggybacking off of the restaurant's closure, we had extensive gardens because Domaine owned the better part of 1,500 acres in Napa Valley and did all their own farming. They didn't outsource anything. So essentially, we had huge greenhouses, 5 acres of culinary gardens that have been developed with blood, sweat, and tears from myself and the whole crew. I was like, well, let me lease them. They're like, sure.
You ended up supplying like 100 restaurants.
Yeah, because I kind of, just from obviously being in Napa for most of my adult working career and knowing every chef of every restaurant, I just showed up their back door with a truck and a whole selection of all my secret weapons that I've been supplying for my own restaurant and said, what do you guys want? I'm doing this to pay some bills and have fun before I figure out my next things. I did that personally for about 5 months. I ran the business for about 2 years. And then a really exciting project I always kind of knew about, had my eye on up in Healdsburg, California, was Healdsburg Shed, a food emporium, if you will, done with zero smoke and mirrors, the utmost authenticity on all of it.
Now, it had a farm, right?
Yeah, we had a huge farm as well. Not right on the property. It was about 5-10 minutes away in Dry Creek Valley.
And you ran you were the executive chef at the restaurant?
Culinary director for the property. We had a restaurant downstairs, a very active event space upstairs, larder, cured fish counters, a charcuterie, massive produce section, a massive wine section, homeware section, linens. It was incredible. We won numerous awards after awards there. And once again, we were just cooking for ourselves. And I kind of watched all these fancy new resorts pop up all over Napa and Sonoma Valley while I was there. And I actually interviewed 1 or 2 of them, just feeling it out. And sitting in some of these interviews, I'm coming from a place where we're cutting down trees to make bowls for our salad. And I'm sitting at this table in between interviews and I'm touching the table and I'm like, pleather, melamine, everything's fake. And it just drove me crazy. Nothing was real. It was all just like, oh yeah, but it'll last 15 years. And I'm like, yeah, and it'll last 150 years in a freaking landfill after this too. I ran that property for 3 years, Healdsburg Shed, and I loved every second of it until I realized that what I've created was not sustainable for myself. My wife and I welcomed a little girl into the world. A 10 to 12 hour workday was peanuts. I mean, I kind of went to work at 6 or 7 and came home at midnight for most of my adult life. There's just no way. I had the best childhood growing up and amazing parents. It's been actually worrying me ever since I told my parents that I wanted to cook, and they tried to persuade me, and they told me one of the reasons is because it's just hard to have a great family.
So you came back to Boonville?
Yeah. So I always, I love Boonville, and throughout all of my career in the 20 years that I didn't live and work here, I came here to get away from it all, to kind of be my happy place. It was great food, slow, chill vibes, everything you're looking to kind of decompress for when you have 48 hours in between.
We'll be right back. Okay, so let me get this straight. The Boonville Hotel and Restaurant was still in your family, correct?
It is. Johnny still owned it and he was thinking of getting rid of it, selling it.
So you came back to be the executive chef?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and partner.
What year was this?
2018. January 2nd, 2018, I started.
You think of a hotel restaurant, you think,
yeah.
Tell me about this restaurant. What do you do?
Yeah. Well, I've been running around this building I'm sitting in now since I was a kid. And it's equally as important as the French Laundry was to myself and the whole family and my brothers growing up in. The hotel always checked that box for all of us too. So we love this place. It's 17 rooms. It sits on 4 acres. It's one of the oldest hotels in California. It opened up in 1860 and it was actually about a mile down the road. Late 1880s, they picked up all 3 buildings in the town that was then called the Corners and decided, well, this is a dumb place for a town. So they moved the 3 buildings, the hotel being one of them, about a mile down the road. And that was moved by J.W. Boone, hence Boonville. It's been the Boonville Hotel ever since. It's been on and off a restaurant inside of it ever since. Johnny moved up here when the hotel was essentially, it was for sale. It was run by Vern and Charlene, which are 2 characters. They ran the hotel and did a really good job from a guest perspective. The food was incredible for a good 3 to 4 years. It was just a really, really special place. They essentially owed the whole town money. Like I said, from a guest perspective, it was operating really well. So one day they were gone and the doors were locked and bills weren't paid. Foreclosure sign went up and Johnny got interest in this old little beautiful building. So they took a leap of faith and bootstrapped the project, renovated the 8 rooms that are upstairs, which at that point, no one has stayed in them for probably 30 to 40 years, holes through the floor and so forth. It's been a project and still is a project. I think it will always be a project. At the heart of the building is a beautiful kitchen. It's really big and open, big light windows, all wood, countertops, no stainless steel, beautiful wood burning grill in the corner. We have a wood burning oven in the kitchen as well. And it's very homey.
Let me read what the Michelin guide says.
Oh, sure.
Unless you're already staying at the hotel, dinner here means driving along the lonely, hairpin turning and mountainous course of Highway 128 until you reach the quaint town of Boonville. But what a happy place it is, thanks to the talents of Chef Perry Hoffman, who prepares simple but arresting plates, highlighting products sourced from their own vegetable garden and local farms. So what are you cooking?
We change the menu every single day.
Well, give me some examples.
Yeah, we get such great fish from the ocean here. So we have petrale sole from Noyo Harbor in Fort Bragg, which is about 40 minutes north of us. We love doing petrale sole whole on the bone in our wood oven, and that will be like an entree. And we'll do it with herbs from the garden, lemon sauces, whatever it may be. But yeah, we love doing whole fish out of the wood oven. That's one of our favorites. We really focus on the meal as much as we do focus on the dish itself. We want the meal to make sense.
So what was the meal you served last week? Or what are you going to serve tonight?
Oh, God. I plan it kind of 24 hours out, so I need to start writing the menu here very shortly. But last week, so we have some gorgeous avocados in from Central California, Brokaw Avocados, true California Haas avocados. We did a little salad of mint and fennel with pine nuts and dates, which is kind of a riff off one of my grandmother's dishes. It's actually in her cookbook. Dates and avocados and red onions and limes and mint. We did a little middle course. We did corn season is just kind of wrapping up in here in California. We have tons of marigolds in the garden. So we did a corn polenta but risotto style. Really good red florini polenta grown here in Mendocino. Last of the corn from the valley here. We do almost equal parts sweet little corn kernels to polenta. And then we make it like risotto. We start off in a little saucier pot, just like you would with adding rice and stock. We use corn stock from the actual cobs themselves. And we fold in, cheese and butter, lots of herbs and lots of marigolds from our garden, which just gives it this beautiful, almost slightly anise flavor, but very distinctively marigold. And then we just put a little bit of fried garlic on top.
Ooh.
And it's just delicious and simple and kind of taking little techniques from the risotto and the French rolled and kind of applying it to different product. But it's a risotto that lays flat, just like polenta that lays flat, just like risotto would. It's nothing stiffy, nothing gloopy. It's definitely a spoon only. We love duck. We love duck and chicken. I can't tell you how many dishes we do with those two. We get amazing ducks locally.
Reading one write-up about your place, there's a dish listed, you say duck. I would have thought this was done with duck, but instead, chicken leg confit?
Oh, God, it's one of our favorites.
I should know better, but you know what? I don't think I've heard of chicken confit.
I don't know if I have either, now that you mention it, but why not confit off a chicken leg? It has roughly about the same structure, the same, very similar to ducks. We don't render off goblos of chicken fat. We do confit it off in duck fat. And of course, the skin gets rendered, from the curing process of the salt and of course, the poaching process of the fat. So the skin gets incredibly crispy and it's kind of like monkfish is poor man's lobster. It's poor man's duck, it's poor man's duck confit and a chicken leg you can still get for about $3-4.
The dinner changes every day, but you got something locked in for Sundays. Paella Sunday.
Yeah, Memorial Day through mid-October.
Where did that idea come from? I mean, what's the Spanish influence?
There's a little bit of Spanish influence here at the hotel. Like Basque flavors have always really inspired us. The chili, the pimienta espelette, that's a really wonderful chili that's grown in the Basque region.
Are you growing that?
Back up about 15 years ago, this was actually Johnny, fell in love with that spice. He tasted it. I'm not sure where exactly, but fell in love with that chili. And it turns out that Indus Valley and the growing regions in California are just absolutely ideal for growing espelette chilies. Fast forward to present day, a great friend of the hotel has taken that idea and ran with it. Pimienta espelette is a DOC protected name, so we can actually call it Pimienta espelette as much as we can't call sparkling wine champagne in California. So Pimentaville, so it's our own little chili of the town. I literally drove by today and they're picking their last block, I think close to 100,000 plants.
Wow.
So that little idea of falling in love with the Basque spice inspired our paella nights about 15 years ago.
And what's in your paella?
We change it up. We definitely have our favorites. We use a really delicious Spanish style chorizo seco, dry cured chorizo that we love. We'll do chicken in there as well. We go back and forth between two different types of rice, La Bamba rice and Calaspara rice. Honestly, I can't find a huge difference between the two of them. Calaspara is the AOC designate official rice of per Spanish government for paella. So we like to honor that. Saffron, which we get from a wonderful farm just east of us, about an hour in Lake County.
Yeah, people don't realize saffron is actually grown near you.
Yeah, just a valley over from us. They have, I think, 50,000 saffron plants. So we just try to use everything local and support the people that are doing cool things. If it's not for us buying it, who else is?
And now you have yet another place to buy local product for.
The second restaurant we opened, yeah.
You opened Offspring.
Directly across the street.
What is it?
California Italian style restaurant, wood burning oven, pizza, pasta, oysters. We took the whole train to Italy about a year and a half ago, all throughout Piemonte, sometime in Paris as well. Incredibly inspired from that trip. We've always loved the flavors of all of Italy, but Northern Italy especially. Boonville had nothing like that. Everything at the hotel is prefix in either $75, $95, or $125 menus. And I personally, as much as I cook that way every night at the hotel, I would really enjoy the meal once you got me in the chair. But I personally just want to be like, what are we doing for dinner tonight? I don't want to make a reservation. I just want to go out and get a good bite to eat. A lot of people come to Boonville to disconnect from that very highly scheduled world. So kind of just reading my own gut and all of that, it was a no-brainer to really try to open up a second restaurant that was just an a la carte menu. You could walk in, that was easy. And, you could get a kid's cheese pizza for your kid for $14, still the same size of all the other pizzas, and just easy.
You have, and I don't know if this is still on the menu, I'm looking at your menu, pork sausage chevellata.
Chevellata is essentially the category for coiled pork sausages.
But I don't think I've ever seen it done this way. You're offering it for $55 for 4.
Yeah, it's one sausage. It's about just over a kilo, so about 2.2 pounds.
Do you make the sausage? Do you buy the sausage?
We go back and forth. We kind of change it. This current one is actually made with Pimentoville chili, which is incredible. We buy it through Journeyman Meat Company, which is just on the other side of the hill from us in Cloverdale, just 30 minutes. I have a wonderful relationship with Pete Segasio, who founded Journeyman Meat Company. They produce a lot of really, really high-end charcuterie here on the West Coast for a lot of names that you most likely know for their private brands. It's incredible. They use amazing pork. They buy amazing chilies from us here in Boonville. They actually have all the right equipment to do this sausage properly that we don't. So we'll do smaller ones, which are really more individual portions, but we love the sausage for 4. I can't tell you how much I respect my place in the buying chain, that not every single thing we do, even though we do so much, has to be produced in-house.
It's interesting you mention it that way. I was talking to someone recently who was discussing how do little restaurants in Italian towns that you'll come back to the States after eating there and you'll gush about how wonderful it is. That wasn't all made in-house. It was made by local farmers or local producers. So it's more of a community sourcing.
Completely. The simplest of examples would be spice blends, to buy a spice blend from a local seaweed forager on the coast, which we have a handful to choose from that are just incredible, that went out there, they picked nori, they found, beautiful organic golden sesame seeds, they dehydrated their miso, and they made this incredible spice blend. It's like, well, sure, I could buy nori and I could dehydrate my own miso. I want to support Karen because it's just her in her kitchen doing this, and it's amazing. And it's like, in all honesty, it makes my job a little bit easier,
You do make so much on your own in-house. You're making a pizza dough that ferments for 48 hours, 96?
Yeah. I mean, I use that as an example only to help other chefs and home cooks. Don't feel bad if you don't make every single thing yourself from scratch. Do the things that are most important that can't be done in advance by somebody else, which is, pizza dough is a perfect example. That thought would never, ever, we wouldn't open up a restaurant if we were going to buy pizza dough.
Well, tell me, what's your pizza program? What makes your pizza special?
It's always an evolving process, and we constantly refine the dough. We found more than anything that the flour, just the right flour, is everything. And, everyone's like, oh, just use type 00, pizza flour. And it's like, sure, there are wonderful companies that make that. And I've used all of them, Central Milling, Custo, local stuff made here. God, it's good. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not like magic.
And where do you get the magic flour?
We took a trip to Italy, and it was just, why does this taste so much better? So we buy Italian flour, to answer your question. We buy Italian flour. Caputo is the brand, and we buy a specific one called Super Nuvla, and it's a highly extracted flour, about 49% extraction, meaning that they ditch 49% of what's milled. It just doesn't pass. It goes through different screens. So the result is just incredibly pure. And then Italian wheat varietals and American wheat varietals are just different. They're just incredibly different at heart. And I hate to say it, but after doing this for about 20 years, there's not a single American wheat brand that I've found that has stood over an Italian one when it comes to like elasticity of dough, the ability to hold the gases. It's just night and day. So as much as we want to buy from our backyard and support some of these California Central Mills, we're like, it's not happening. And it's not us. Like the oven's right, the proofing schedule's right, the type of wood we're using is right, the cure on that wood is right. It's not the hands, the technique is there.
But this doesn't mean that you're replicating Italy. I mean, I'm looking at your menu. You have a pizza with fingerling potatoes, speck ham, creme fraiche, mozzarella, taleggio onions, cured egg yolk, and black pepper. I have not encountered that in Italy. Have you?
No, definitely not. It's definitely more Americana, but definitely that pizza has a little bit of a flair kind of off the carbonara, right? So taking like the egg yolk, the black pepper, pecorino, a little bit of taleggio, just trying to get all those ingredients to swing. We're not trying to keep it super crazy Neapolitan, authentic.
Although you do offer a margarita.
We do, and it's delicious. And we make it with sun golds from our garden.
Tomatoes, yeah.
It's goddamn the best margarita we've ever had. All of us say that. Unfortunately, it has to come off the menu because one, tomatoes seasons are ending, and two, not many other pizzas are selling because everyone just gets that.
Oh, okay. Well, you also make your own pastas, right?
Yeah, we do our own pastas. There's one or two that we buy dried from Italy, Faia product, but we have a beautiful bronze extruder. So all semolina-based extruded pastas, all bronze dyed. And we have about 15 different dyes, and about 3 to 4 on the menu at any given time.
Well, I don't know if this is on the menu right now, but in reading about the place, I came across duck paceri?
Duck meze paceri.
Man, that's humiliating.
No, not at all.
Anyway, okay. What is this?
Meze paceri is a really large, short noodle. So the noodles stand about 2 inches high and probably have about a 3/4 of an inch hole on the inside. So we make duck confit. We make a house-made ricotta, cheese, orange zest, lemon zest, lots of rosemary, thyme, a little bit of really good vinegar in there to help balance it. And essentially we stuff it almost like you would almost like a cannelloni. And then we do about 15 of them or whatever kind of fits appropriately into the vessel that's going in. And we do it all, when we stack them all vertically. So essentially the little stuffed pastas, separate but not shells, as you kind of know, it's its own little thing.
How's business?
It's good. It's a challenging climate for all restaurants.
Can you do this in a challenging climate? Especially I'm thinking across the street.
We believe in our little system, and the system is not new. It may be kind of new for Americans, if you will, but it's essentially the old concept of a family, a hotel, roadhouse, or an inn, whatever you want to call it, a few rooms upstairs, quote unquote, a garden in the back, and a restaurant. That's a really healthy cycle because you have the rooms upstairs. It's no secret. If we do everything right in the restaurants, economically, we're looking at like break even to 5% profit on the best year ever. And that's every restaurant out there until you get to maybe the 20 million a year mark revenue, then you're killing it. But it's because of the hotel rooms that really make it work for us. And it's a second restaurant that's a la carte across the street that doesn't have to be a prefix every night. We have so many guests that stay with us. We actually have a 2-night minimum on weekends. So many of the guests come to stay with us just to dine with us. The hotel room is just a perk. We love our rooms and we put an equal amount of energy into our rooms in the hotel than we do into the restaurants. But it's what really makes it work for us is to have, and of course, Boonville is a town of 900. We are the only hotel in the town, besides for a few little Airbnb places up in the hill.
And you got one more attribute. You got an ice cream shop, right?
Yeah, we do have a little ice cream shop. We all homemade ice cream, 100%. We have a beautiful machine in the back of Offspring, and it's awesome. We have usually no more than 8 flavors. I love it because we're not Baskin-Robbins 31s.
Flavors like what?
We always, of course, have the basics, just really delicious vanilla and bittersweet chocolate. But we have wild blackberries are just a huge bumper crop this past year. So I think we made over 30 tubs, which are 3-gallon tubs of wild blackberry ice cream, all from the valley, all people just showing up at our back door with wild blackberries, buying 5-10 pounds at a time, processing them, storing them, waiting for the right time to make ice cream into big batches. We do a strawberry buttermilk ice cream, which is one of my favorites. In the wintertime and springtime, we do a Meyer lemon creme fraiche ice cream with poppy seeds, which is kind of like a play off the old lemon poppy seed muffin. The list goes on. We try not to get too crazy with it. Every now and then we'll have a beautiful local olive oil, make an olive oil ice cream. cream. We do an orange cardamom. We do a pomegranate ice, which is really fun. We make it with half and half and no eggs. So it keeps it a little icy, but it still has a little bit of fat in there to kind of coat your tongue and your palate.
I suspect the ice cream shop is not your main profit center. Nonetheless, it sounds terrific.
No, it keeps high school kids employed, but there's a line out the door. And if we can pay everybody, including ourselves, and pay our bills and pay our vendors and make it through the winter, that's success for us.
Okay, your kids,
Yep.
your daughter and son, are what, 6 and 7?
Yeah, 6 and 7. My daughter, Harley, is the oldest.
And your son's Teddy.
Yeah.
Do you see them taking over the family culinary and lodging empire?
They just need to step up their palates and not be such picky little eaters and let daddy feed them. They're really good workers. I'll tell you that. They're not the best eaters yet. My daughter's way more adventurous than my son. I'm working on that more than ever now, but he's a hard wall to break down. But to answer your question, I absolutely hope so. One of my daughter's favorite things to do is to help fold all the napkins for the restaurant service that night. And she's better than I am. And I have no patience for that type of thing. They're both really good workers. I put them to work in the kitchen and they go get, just as I was, they kind of have these little prep lists that I give them. And it's like, hey, go pick borage flowers, go pick basil tops, pick anything that's flowering out. And they're at the ages where they really get it. I also make it kind of serious for them. I'm like, guys, that's not going to be enough. Like, we're going to run out halfway through service. Get back out there. I talk to them like they're little line cooks. That might just be my parenting style in general.
The line cook parenting style. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, Chef, it sounds like you have done something just wonderful and remarkable up there.
We're so proud of it. We have a lot of work to do. It's an old building and we've done so much work on it every year. And every month we just always ripping up something to put something in. And we find something when we do that, But we hope that the model, we try to get it out there that you don't need a $15 million investment to have a great life and to be able to still have a family and a garden. Try to do something cool in a rural area where prices are still somewhat reasonable and get a small group of family and friends together. But for us to make it all work, it's the hotel. And that's what we love about it. We get to put people to bed at night with a beautiful glass of Calvados or whatever it may be, or aperitivo from Offspring. And we see them the next morning for breakfast and for lunch and for dinner again the next night at our other restaurant. So it becomes very much a first name basis stay. We like it that way and kind of coming back to the whole, as much as I love Napa and was born and raised into it, it's like a little smoke and mirror for me now.
Well, Chef, best of luck with this continuing enterprise. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to chat.
Yeah, thank you. It's wonderful to chat through it and I appreciate it, David. Thank you.
Perry Hoffman on Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page. I'll see you next time. And check out the Culinary Characters Unlocked Substack.